Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I will be doing my Collingwood season review. Of course, it was obviously a pretty good season. For us, we did end up winning our 16th premiership, which was pretty fantastic. Of course, the grand final just under a week ago now, and it was a pretty good game from us, and what a fantastic season. Obviously, I will be doing a few things in this season review. I'll be basically grading most of our players' season. I'll also be going through some of the games. It should be a pretty fun video. I'll start off. Obviously, we got 17 wins and 5 losses this season. That was, of course, in the home and away season. It wasn't a bad record. In fact, it was actually 18 wins and 5 losses. My bad. But it was a pretty good record for us. We didn't really have too many issues at all, really. Obviously 5 losses did hurt. To Brisbane twice, one at the Gabba, one at Marvel. We also had a loss to Carlton at the G. The second time around we played them. We also had a loss to Hawthorn quite late in the season. And we also had a loss to Melbourne, which was, of course, King's birthday around mid-season. So, 5 losses. 5 games where we probably didn't really deserve to win. The Melbourne game, we outscored them in goals, but didn't really do that much. We weren't that great and probably shouldn't have deserved to win that game. We were pretty poor, in my opinion, in the first game we played against Brisbane. We had a horrible second quarter. Really let us down in that game. That one was, of course, at the Gabba, so it was always going to be pretty difficult for us to win. The second game against Brisbane was a bit of a shootout at Marvel. We're not great at shootouts normally. Then again, you look at the grand final, it was a bit of a shootout and we won that. We had quite a few players absent. I think we had Bobby Hill, Scott Pendlebury, or maybe not Pendlebury, but Darcy Moore. Yeah, we had a few players out. Nick Dacos, of course. So, it was always going to affect our chances of winning that one. The second time round, we played Carlton. We just lost. This game didn't really work that well for us. Carlton, obviously, in their hot streak at this point. It was a pretty bad loss for us. Definitely hurts a little bit more when you lose to a big club like Carlton. And again, the following week against Hawthorn. Bit of a shock loss. People were saying upset of the season. I'm not sure if it was the upset of the season, but it certainly was an upset and certainly was a surprise. Hawthorn just outplayed us for the whole game, really. Credit to them. It just wasn't our day, really, that one. But obviously it was a fantastic season. The other 18 games we all played superbly, and it was a really, really complete season from us. One where I wouldn't say we dominated, but I would say we were probably the best team for the majority of it. Now I'm going to go through and grade all of our players. Firstly, I'll be ranking our players that we got through the trade period last season. Starting off with Big Billy Frampton. Obviously didn't have a great grand final, that's for sure. But overall, we still are quite a handy recruit. He came in handy in the ruck when Cameron and Cox went down early on in the season, and he was quite important then. He's played forward, obviously, like in the grand final, and at other times in the season. He's also played, obviously, in defence. That is his main role as a key defender, and probably the role that suits him the best. Overall, not too great. I'm not exactly too sure how many games he did end up playing for us this year. I think he kicked a few goals when he's playing up forward, so it wasn't amazing, but nothing too special. I'll give it a 5 out of 10 for Billy. Grand final really hurt him though. Obviously didn't play all of our games though. He was a bit of a fringy player for us. Also, the next recruit is Tom Mitchell. He had a fantastic season for us, in my opinion. Quite an underrated one. He got quite a lot of criticism this year for playing like out of position or just not doing what he can normally do. Yeah, in my opinion, I thought he was pretty good. He came in handy at times. We definitely got him to become a finals player, and he stepped up in the finals. He was really good in the grand final. I think he had our most fantasy points and almost our most disposals. We recruited him to the club to get the clearances and get it out to like the Nick Dacos, the Scott Pendlebury, the Jack Crisp, the Degoe types that can bomb it into our forwards. And he certainly did do that. Quite an underrated season for mine. A 7 out of 10. Bobby Hill, obviously, the Norm Smith medalist, he was pretty good this year. Let's face it, he was a fantastic recruit. Quite an underrated one. Not too many people were expecting Bobby Hill to have the season that he had. I think he played majority of the games. In fact, he almost played all the games. Was one of our best forwards. And came in when people thinking, is this guy really going to get a game? Obviously was getting games over Jack Ginnivan and had a really, really good year, in my opinion. He was just having those standout games, like just that burst of speed, the dynamicness, the X factor type player that he showed signs of at the Giants, but hadn't really shown it to the ability as this year under the Pies. So was a fantastic recruit in my opinion, and obviously had that fantastic grand final where he kicked 4 goals, took a big mark, just did everything. He was just so good. And I think everyone loves him, and he's just come into the club. He loves the club, and he was a fantastic recruit for us. Played 24 games this year. That's quite a bit. That's more than I thought he would have. He kicked 33 goals. That's really, really good for a small forward. And was quite accurate as well. I only kicked the 14 behind, so it was fairly accurate as well. And played in 21 wins and 3 losses. So he was obviously absent for 2 of our losses, I believe, against Brisbane the second time round. And the other one, I'm not 100% too sure of, but he had a fantastic record when playing for us, that's for sure. A 9 out of 10 for him. Dan McStay, another quite underrated one. Another forward, a key forward. We obviously got him in because, obvious need of a key forward. And, Dan McStay, it was rumoured for quite some time last year that he'd be coming to the club. Eventually we got him. And, he had quite an injury-prone season, which was quite disappointing for Dan. Lots of people don't really rate this guy, but I definitely rate him. He had an interesting year. He was really good in the prelim final against GWS before going down to injury. He was also decent against Melbourne, the final beforehand, and had a few other good games as well. Obviously got injured against the Saints in gather round, had that finger and was out for 10 to 12 weeks. So really, really ruined his season. Overall, a decent season from Dan. A 6 out of 10 in my opinion. So that's the recruits out of the way. Now let's do all the other playing list. We'll start off, we'll go in jump order. Makes it a bit easier for me. Patrick Lipinski is first up. Now, he was obviously injured for the first half of the season, had that shoulder injury, but didn't really have a huge impact. Not as much as last season. Obviously, last season was his first season at the club, and this year, with a few other recruits coming in, Mitchell, and getting some other midfielders in, he didn't have an amazing midfield amount of time compared to last year and was playing more forward. But he seems to be enjoying his footy and, not a bad season from him in the end, but still have to give it a 5. Jordan Degoe had a fantastic year, let's face it. He was Arguably one of our best players. Unlucky not to get, in my opinion, in the All-Australian team. Did get suspended against West Coast in round 12 on a knock on Elijah Hewitt, which got him suspended for 3 games. That obviously doesn't bloody help you, does it? But yeah, definitely one of our better players and had a really, really, really good year. A 9 out of 10. Isaac Quainer. Again, what an absolute gun this guy is. He needs to be speaked about more often. He was so close to getting in the All-Australian squad. Did in the squad of 40 or 44, always forget which one it is. But yeah, he had a really, really impressive year. He only lost, like, at one point, I don't know when, but he apparently had an amazing stat where he had only lost, like, 5 one-on-one, like, contested, like, battles for the year. He obviously got more added on, but I don't know how much he actually ended up on with. But he had a really, really good year for us, an 8 out of 10 for Quainer. Braden Maynard, obviously he had a controversial final series, that's for sure. But in the end, a premiership player and an absolute superstar, in my opinion. And again, another pretty underrated year from a really impressive defender. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed his season. He just goes in and just shows the energy, and he's always like the leader down there in defence for us, and he's just such a fantastic player, fantastic role model, a really, really fun player as well. Like, it's just so good to watch, and definitely makes us a lot better. We wouldn't be able to do what we've been able to achieve this year without Big Bruzzy. So, yeah, a 7 out of 10 for him. Jamie Elliott obviously had a fantastic season last season. Unfortunately, not quite the same as this year. Did have a bit of an injury that he carried through most of the first half of the season. But came back after the injury like a different man. And there was, I think, a 1 month to even 6 week patch where he was the best forward in the competition and where he kicked around 20 to 25 goals. He was that good. Did drop off a bit though, slightly, when obviously we had a bit of a form slump towards the final month of the season where Elliott was a little bit more quieter and didn't have an amazing final series. But yeah, still a pretty good season in my opinion. 7 out of 10. Josh Dacos, what a year. All-Australian. Had a really good Brownlow poll. Played fantastically on the wing. He was good last year, but boy oh boy was he good this year. He had a fantastic year. Lots of talk about his brother, being a fantastic player, but this guy's arguably just as good. Just having a superb career at the moment, Josh Dacos. Definitely one of our most important players on the wing, and it's what he does every week is just kick a few goals, get disposals, and he's just so underrated and such a good player as well for us. And in my opinion, the season for him, this might seem a little bit crazy, but I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 for him. Trent Bianco played the one game as sub, I believe. I think it was in the game that I attended against the Bulldogs. Had a decent VFL year. Trent, he's quite a handy player for us that we haven't really used this year. We did use him a little bit more last year. Did play in the prelim final against Sydney. But yeah, unfortunately couldn't quite crack in. He's actually been rumoured to leave the club, which is a little bit unfortunate because, we drafted Trent at quite a high draft pick and hasn't quite done what we were expecting yet. But you can't really pick on him because there's just so many other guys that we've got in front of him at the moment. He's a bit of a winger. He can play forward, but there's just no room for him on the wing. Played one game and stuffed up a few times pretty badly. Yeah, maybe a 3 out of 10 for him. John Noble, what a year this man had. I know he didn't play in the finals. Unfortunately, he couldn't get a premiership medal around his neck, and he didn't even get to play a final, which was quite unfortunate. He played every single other game, though, and was arguably one of our best players. He had a fantastic year off half-back. first half of the season when Nick Dacos was playing in defence. Him and Nick were just absolutely fantastic for us. Probably our most important players at the time. But it did drop off a bit in the second half of the season, which is always alright, but still a fairly good year from John. 7 out of 10. Scotty Pendlebury. He was really, how do I describe it? Just influential, I guess, at the big moments. He's just such a great leader, just telling everyone what to do out there. He's like a coach on the field, Scotty, and he's just such a fantastic player. Lots of people can argue, oh, he's gone away, he's gone off, but he's had some really, really big moments. I'll try and find some for you. He had a huge third quarter that arguably won us the game against Richmond in round 3. Kicked a goal, was absolutely fantastic. He had a few other massive games. He was really good on Anzac Day, which got us the win. He was good the following week against Adelaide, the first time we played him at the Adelaide Oval, which was really, really good for him. It was just fantastic to see what he was able to do, and he just played so well in all the games. He was really, really impressive as well. In a few other games, like, for instance, West Coast. I mean, I know it's West Coast, but still, he was really, really good. Against Gold Coast, where we absolutely pulverised them. He was really good in our win against Port Adelaide. He played a really good final series for us as well. And that last quarter in the grand final against Brisbane was absolutely elite from him. And, has just been such a fantastic player for this football club. And, it goes around next year. He'll be able to probably pick up 400 games and a 7 out of 10 season for him, in my opinion. Moving on to Tom Williamson. Obviously didn't play too much this year. He was quite irrelevant. I believe he played a game as sub against St Kilda, gather round. I'll just go out of the way and say it now. A 2 for him. Taylor Adams, interesting year. Again, he was, criticised for his role. Playing mid, forward, flank. Not really a great position for him. Bit slow, not the greatest kick, and a lot of criticism to him, but still had a decent year, and definitely not his best. I don't know if it'd be his worst, but really unfortunate that he couldn't win a premiership either. But a decent year from him, and a 6 out of 10, in my opinion. Darcy Cameron had a massive injury that really ruined his year for majority of it. Came back in the second half of the year, of course, with the ruck with Coxie, and played well. It took him quite some time to get back to decent, playing rate, and didn't exactly have a great year. He got battered and bruised in a few games as well, and dominated against it. He didn't really dominate any games and got dominated by a few ruckmen, like, for instance, Oscar McInerney dominated him a couple times this year. I think Sean Darcy was dominating him before he went down in the Freo v Collingwood game this year. Jared Witts also got the better of him against Gold Coast, though that one didn't really have much of an influence on the game because we beat him by 80, but not a great year from Darcy. 6 out of 10. Nathan Kruger didn't play too much. He struggled in his first 2 years at the Pies to just play, really. All he can do is just play, and he's just such a great player, but we just can't get him in, and really underrated. Doesn't get spoken about at all, really. Was used quite a bit in the second half of the year in the VFL squad, and overall a 4 out of 10 for him. Might seem a little bit harsh, but sorry, Krugs. Eddie Allen didn't play a game, so I can't really rate him, can I? Finlay McRae played a game as sub against Essendon, final round of the year. Again, a handy top-up player, but again, he's been rumoured to leave the club, and a 2 out of 10 for him this year. Arlo Draper, the big fella, the big midfielder, didn't play a game. Can't rate his season, can I? Will Kelly, believe he played 1 or 2 games. Both as sub, I think, against St Kilda and Essendon Anzac Day. So, he got games. He deserves votes. A 2 out of 10. Trey Ruskow, one of my favourite players, such an underrated player, Trey, but unfortunately just couldn't quite grab a spot in the side. Played one game, Anzac Day against Essendon, and to be honest, I'm going to give him a 1 out of 10. But, oh well. Not quite the year for Trey. He's been rumoured to leave the club to either Freo or West Coast. So, yeah, that'd be quite disappointing if that does happen. Steel Sidebottom. What a fantastic and underrated season. This guy just did not get spoken about at all in the first 10 games. Obviously, he did it against North, but got injured and missed a bit of the year. Took quite some time to get back to decent enough form in the second half, but boy, oh boy, was he good in the finals. Played 3 really impressive finals. Saved the game against GWS. Kicked the match-winning goal against Brisbane in the grand final. Steel Sidebottom, in my opinion, had the most underrated year at the club. And was really, really good in the first half of the season. Kicked the match-winning point against Adelaide. An 8 out of 10 for Steel. Jacob Ryan. What a great young draft pick he was. Played a lot of VFL. Didn't quite make an impact at AFL level because he was playing a game but got concussed and subbed out at half time, so he played a half a footy. So he looked alright though, so I'll give him a 1 out of 10. A bit nicer than none. Jack Crisp, an interesting year. Copped a lot of criticism for being just chucked everywhere, chucked anywhere we needed him, really. Played a bit of defence, bit of midfield, bit of wing, bit of forward. It was just crazy from Jack Crisp. Had a crazy year. Had really good games, almost match-winning performances, but was just irrelevant for a majority of games, I want to say. It was quite unfortunate because he's won our best and fairest the last couple of years, and he just doesn't miss games. He doesn't get injured. But, yeah, he was a premiership player and played really well in the grand final as well. So he is an impact player still for us, and that's why he's in the squad. A 6 out of 10. Reef McInnes. Played a few games, I believe. A few as sub, did a bit. Didn't do a whole lot, but did a bit. So you got to give him something. And was really good in VFL. And I wouldn't be surprised if rival clubs try and pick him up because I really rate this kid. A 3 out of 10. Cooper Murley. Didn't play a game, so can't rate him, can I? Nathan Murphy. Now, this is the one I was excited about. Nathan Murphy reviewing his season. What an underrated player. Just does not get spoken about not nearly enough. He's just such a great key defender, and without him, we would be an absolute shambles. And when he went down early in the grand final, I think most people were thinking that, we're cooked. We're a goner because he's just such a great player. He's so incredibly undersized, but can play on blokes 15 centimetres taller than him. It is ridiculous how good he is. Such a great interceptor. He is a best 22 player, despite people just saying, why do they play Murphy every week? He's just such a great player, and a 7 out of 10 for me. Joe Richards, promising young future talent, I guess, but didn't get a game, so I can't rate him, can I? Darcy Moore, the captain, the skipper, first year as skipper, and All-Australian. Should have been All-Australian captain. Should have polled more Brownlow votes. An elite player. What furthermore can I say? What a year. Arguably bloody robbed of the most intercept marks in the game against round 10 against Carlton, which was utter crap. What a year from Darcy. What a year. 9 out of 10. Bo McCreary. He was underrated. Let's just say that. His tackling pressure and forward half pressure and forward craft and even footy knowledge is just so good, and he's just such an incredible player. Doesn't do much many games. He kicks a goal or two or even none a game, but has those 5 to 6 to 7 tackles that are really, really impactful on the game, and that's why we all love Bo. Fantastic Player still very, very young, which is really, really promising for us. 6 out of 10. Will Hoskin Elliott. Many controversial calls, let's just say, were made about Hoskin Elliott. And my ranking of him is probably a little bit controversial as well. I mean, like, he did have irrelevant games and games where he's really good. He had a decent last month of the season when his finals were good, and he played well against Essendon and in Brisbane. The one at Marvel where we lost, despite us losing, he was still probably one of our best players on the ground. But not an amazing year, let's be honest, for Will. Yeah, it was a little bit weird. He's just such a weird player he's turned into, because we can throw him behind the ball, we can throw him midfield, throw him forward. Yeah, a bit weird. Basically wherever the game needs him, really. A 5 out of 10. Jack Ginnivan. Didn't get a lot of games, Guinea, unfortunately. Was just stuck behind a few other forwards. Obviously the suspension, the 2-week suspension at the start of the season didn't help. He's still a really impressive player and had some great games, and the crowd absolutely love him. He does have some impactful moments. Overall, not a great year from him to follow up what was a really, really good year last year, but still decent. I've got to give it a 5 from him. Nick Dacos, our best player this year, let's face it. He was absolutely fantastic all year long. Played in defence, played in midfield, robbed of the Brownlow. What else was there? He had a knee injury, which obviously made him get robbed of the Brownlow. Fantastic year from him. Just the ability to just play anywhere, really. And is, in my opinion, the best player in the comp. So, 10 out of 10 for him. Harvey Harrison made his debut this year. I believe he played 2 or 3 games. So, promising forward half prospect. He's really good in the VFL. Doesn't quite have the same impact, though, in AFL by the looks of things from the games that he did play. So, a 2 out of 10. Oleg Markov was probably the surprise packet of the year, really. And I actually didn't speak about him in my recruits of the year. And I do excuse myself for that. I probably should have spoken about him. Even though he wasn't like a traded player, we did pick him up, and he's still a recruit. So I should have spoken about him earlier. My bad. What a year from Oleg. Wasn't in our best 22 to start off the season. Came in, was a bit fringy, but we kept on playing him, and it's turned into a really impressive player for us. And premiership player, which is obviously fantastic from him. And he's a pretty important player and a really funny guy to have around the group. And a 7 out of 10. Might be a little bit much, maybe, but 7 out of 10 for his first season at the Pies. Jeremy Howe. Now, this one is a little bit harder because he played so well but was injured for most of the year. Because he played so well in most of his games, like he was playing really, really well round 1 when he got injured. He played forward at times. Just such a great interceptor, and has made such an impact on this club, and we are a way better side when he's in the side. That's for sure. So I gotta give it a 7. Aiden Begg, I believe, did not play a game. He may have. I'm not sure, though. Anyway, I can't rate him, can I? Ash Johnson had a few games that were really impressive this year. Obviously had a few irrelevant games, but we've just got such a stacked side that we couldn't really fit him in. Played really good footy down at VFL, and unfortunately got injured late in the year and couldn't quite get back into the side. And couldn't even get some VFL games, which is unfortunate. But 4. Might be a bit harsh, but 4 out of 10 for Ash. Brody Mychek had an interesting year up in the forward line. Had some really, really good games. He was pretty good in the first half of the year. Died away in the second half, but when he's kicking goals, we look really, really damaging. When we kick a big score, it's because of Brody. When he has bags, we win. So he is a really, really impactful player with potential, and he's definitely showed plenty of potential, but unfortunately just didn't quite have an amazingly consistent year. But still good enough to get a 7. Charlie Dean, it's really, really annoying. Still hasn't played a game. Been on the list now for 2 years. He seems like a really, really good player and sounds like a really good player, but it's just a big problem. His foot at the moment when it's kept him out for 2 seasons. So hopefully we can see him maybe debut next year and, I don't know, maybe get some games into him, see what he does. Oscar Steen was a pickup, a bit of a, I think it was supplemental pickup this year. Didn't play a game, so obviously can't rate him. Josh Carmichael, I don't know if he played a game, surprisingly. He may have actually played a game, but yeah, he had a really impressive VFL year and is, amongst rivals' interest, which is fair enough, but he hasn't even played like 2 seasons for us yet. He's played 1.5 years for us, but looks like an impressive midfielder and forward. So another great future prospect. I'm going to give him a 2 out of 10, even though I don't think he played 2 out of 10. Mason Cox, interesting year, that's to say, from Big Coxie. Such an important ruckman. Turned into a really, really important player. A premiership player, of course. Yeah, a really, really good player, in my opinion. Had a fantastic game this year against GWS. Played a few big games. Had some impactful moments, especially when he came on to sub and really cemented his spot back in the side against Brisbane round 23. And played pretty well in the finals. And is a premiership player, Big Coxie. So, pretty nice. 6 out of 10 from me. So yeah, that's all the player ratings. Now, this is a very, very, very long video, by the way. I will be doing my top 3 favourite games for the year. A bit of a fun little ad, I guess, to, I don't know, this video. I've decided I'll put in my 3 favourite games for the year. So yeah, coming in at 3rd, I feel like it has to be this one. Anzac Day. What a performance. What a comeback. I mean, being 28 points down at 3/4 time against the Bombers, it wasn't going great. But the ability to come back and just put a few past the Bombers and then keep going and take the lead and kick a few more and win the game by 2 goals in the end. Always is a little bit more because it's Anzac Day. It's against Essendon, your rivals. You got to absolutely love it. So, yeah, one of my favourite games of the year. Coming in 2nd place was the prelim final against GWS. 1 point win, obviously pretty good. It wasn't as big as what maybe too many people were expecting, but it was a prelim final. It just doesn't get much better than that. It was a fantastic game, a really good thriller, winning by 1 point. Played pretty well, and managed to get the win. So, it was a pretty good game from us. So yeah, coming in 2nd place, I've got Collingwood and GWS, the prelim final. This one was a really, really good game because, obviously in a prelim final, but just because of how close it was and how intense and obviously the importance of going into a grand final and getting the win, of course, and just seeing the players and the group and the coach after the game, just absolutely fantastic and was a really, really good game to watch. And it was obviously heart-stopping, but at least it wasn't heartbreaking. And obviously my favourite game has to be the grand final because we won the grand final. Because, yeah, beating Brisbane in the grand final, pretty good. 16th premiership, what a fantastic season overall though. few honourable mentions I had in there was the game against Port Adelaide. That was a really good game because of how close it was. The two Adelaide games were really, really good. Probably because they were so close and made it a little bit more entertaining. And obviously the two games against Geelong, because when you beat Geelong, you know it's a bloody good day. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bit of my review on the season. It's obviously going to be a 10 out of 10 overall, because we obviously won the premiership, which is, you know, the big prize in footy. And yeah, hopefully we can come back and have a really, really good follow-up year in our premiership defence. But I hope you guys enjoyed the season review, and I'll see you guys in the next one.